Good morning, commanders and commissars of our glorious People's Army, Umkhonto we Sizwe. This is a message that I would have liked to deliver to you in person, inside the conference venue, there at the International Convention Centre in East London. But I've been prevented from doing so. As you know, first of all, aspersions were casted on my membership of Umkhonto we Sizwe and my credentials. When that failed and I was eventually included in the Department of Military Veterans database, all kinds of public attacks ensued. It culminated in a forced COVID-19 test that was conducted at the premises where accreditation was done for the Unity Conference. I was apparently found to have COVID-19. Interestingly enough, there was immediately a police officer on site to instruct me to leave the venue and that I could not even stay in one of the hotel rooms because I would, according to this story, that I was found to have COVID-19 infect the other delegates. Evidently, everything possible was being done to prevent me from attending that conference and to prevent me from making this input that I'm doing now to you through this audio and video, right there during the conference. Comrades, let me first of all remind you who you are. You are the soldiers of the glorious Liberation Army of Umkhonto we Sizwe. You are the children of Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, Nelson Mandela, and all the leaders of Umkhonto we Sizwe that formed this glorious army of ours on the 16th of December, 1961. You are the soldiers who over the years laid down the declaration, the oath of Umkhonto we Sizwe. You dedicated yourselves to the full liberation of the people of our country. And you know the manifesto that was issued on the 16th of December 1961. There comes a time in the history of a nation where one either submits or stands up and fight. You are also the soldiers who were brought back after 1991, neglected. MK was disbanded without many of you agreeing to that decision. Those decisions were forced down your throats. You were the soldiers and are the soldiers who were not integrated in a new South African National Defence Force and South African Police Service, but were absorbed, humiliated. Your years of service in the liberation struggle and in our glorious Liberation Army, Umkhonto we Sizwe, not recognized, given junior ranks, hardly earning anything, having to report to those officers who were the agents, the executors of apartheid. You are the soldiers who were betrayed by Siphiwe Nyanda and the other generals who were happy to take their jobs and sell you out, leave you to fight your little battles in the lowest ranks of the SANDF. You are the liberation soldiers, many of you, who in desperation and in disgust resigned from being subjected in the SANDF to this kind of humiliation. You are the liberation soldiers who are left without proper support from this ANC government, who are left unemployed, to sink into dire poverty, many of you not having houses, not being able to take care of your families, not being able to put food on the table, living under bridges, some of our glorious Liberation Army soldiers, descending into alcoholism out of despair. All of this has been done to you, comrades. This is the terrible thank you, and I say that in quotation marks, that you have received from this ANC government. So you tried to organize yourselves. You tried to create Umkhonto we Sizwe Military Veterans Association, and you succeeded in doing so. You tried to work for your own advancement against an African National Congress government that has consistently been disregarding you and treating you as if you are rubbish, while you've been the cutting edge, the spear of the liberation struggle. And today, comrades, after this very same ANC government, driven by division, driven by factionalism, driven by triumphalism through a victory of a certain faction at the ANC 54th National Conference at Nasrec, disband MKMVA illegally, destroy this one instrument, this one body that we ourselves created to try and defend ourselves and to muster our hope. Today, when they've done all of this, they then call us to a so-called all-inclusive unity conference, where they want to give equal recognition, if not even more recognition, to a structure that was erected as a parallel structure with no legitimacy. I'm talking about MK National Council, which was created for one purpose, and that was to be an election vehicle and campaign vehicle for the presidential campaign and ambitions of Cyril Ramaphosa. Today, they bring us all together in a unity conference. But how do they do it? They disregard us once again. They bring us to the venue of the ICC in East London in buses traveling 9 hours and more, after they've delayed the pickup points where we had to go to be picked up. They brought us here to East London exhausted. The accommodation was not sorted out. The transport from our accommodation to the ICC is not arranged. For 2 days, the incompetent Department of Military Veterans messes up a small registration process of 720 candidates, delegates. It was done deliberately in order to create an atmosphere where this conference can be nothing else but a consultative conference, to let us run out of time. In this meantime, we were subjected to illegal, forced COVID-19 tests. I myself was removed from the conference on the back of such an illegal COVID-19 test. Control has been taken out of our hands. And here we are. We have to sit in a convention center at a conference which is determined, managed, staged by those who have never shown themselves to be concerned about the well-being of you as the soldiers of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Let me ask, do you remember what Mavuso Msimang did when he got that honorary doctorate at UNISA? Do you remember how he was disparaging about this MK camouflage uniform? Do you remember how he and Thabo Mbeki were referring to us as tin pot soldiers? You remember all the empty promises that David Mashombo made when he became the dominating figure within the subcommittee for peace and stability after Comrade Tony Ngeni was shoved to the side because he was taking principled positions. Do you remember how the report of this Peace and Stability Committee about the six-a-side process for unity was never, ever reported back to us? How the NEC of the ANC never properly considered that report. But today, David Mashombo is standing up there on the stage of this conference, chairing, making inputs, cajoling us along to accept, first of all, a constitution that has been drafted somewhere far away from where we have been, not reflecting our needs and our demands. They roll out people like Mac Maharaj and others. Yes, Ronnie Casuals, Sue Rapp. They must come and tell us that we must accept this pre-made, pre-packaged, pre-formulated constitution, which has not been given to us to consider. Although we asked week after week for the documents for this conference to be given to us, and they were deliberately withheld. Today, they want us to accept that constitution without being able to consider the legal implications. They tell us that we must accept a nominated leadership for an interim committee. Comrades, may I remind you what we said when we met in our various caucuses throughout the country as the true soldiers of Umkhonto we Sizwe. We said when we go to this conference, we will not accept anything less than a full elective conference, where the culture of Umkhonto we Sizwe and the African National Congress, which is democratic, representative, expressing the will of our members, of our delegates, must take place. We said that the documents that we are going to consider in commissions must be provided to us in good time so that we can consider them, so that our well-considered inputs can be made, so that we can be treated with respect. Nothing whatsoever about this has happened. So how do we proceed with this conference? How do we accept an imposed appointed leadership? How do we accept that names must be presented and then given to President Ramaphosa, and he will select who will be the leaders of Umkhonto we Sizwe? The man who is at the heart of the divisions in the African National Congress, who is an arch-factionist, who was at the heart of the division of the Umkhonto we Sizwe veterans, in whose favor the MK National Council was created, So that man must now decide who will be appointed on an interim structure that will lead us. Comrades, these people are devils. They are factional devils. They are here in this conference to make sure that they finally bury Umkhonto we Sizwe. They are here in this conference in their numbers. I believe there's over 10 members of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress there. Among them, Zizi Kodwa. What has Zizi Kodwa ever done for Umkhonto we Sizwe? What has many of those comrades who are there ever done for us? Did they ever care? Has that committee, presidential committee that has been created under the chairpersonship of Deputy President Didi Mabuza, who gave a good sounding, flowering, say nothing, feel good speech yesterday at the opening of this conference. Has any of them done anything for us? So now they throw at us these little offerings, the possibility of a pittance of a veteran's pension, further assistance with regards to the rights that are already set out and established of the Military Veterans Act of 2011. They haven't implemented those rights that we have, that assistance that was to be given to us and to our families in any way properly ever. But here they come. Cooperate with us. Participate in this conference. Accept a constitution that has been pre-packaged and prepared for you and thrusted down your throats. Accept a pre-cooked appointed leadership. Finally to be appointed by the man who is at the heart of your pain and your divisions. Comrades, I started this message, this input of mine, by reminding you of who you are. Members of the glorious People's Liberation Army of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Members who have fought against the evil of the racist apartheid system, who came from outside the country in the camps where you were trained, and worked with the internal machinery and the self-defense units, who carried out glorious operations, who was prepared to die for your beliefs. My dear comrades, you can never be reduced to beggars and paupers. You can never be reduced by these devils of division and of factionalism to sit here and to have their plan for the destruction of Umkhonto we Sizwe thrust down your throats. Never. I can't be there, comrades. I've been prevented by hook and by crook. But this message of mine can reach. I know that there's monies flowing around in that conference. I know that there's offers of easy tenders. It is all poppycock. It is all just little baits that are being thrown out in order to get as many delegates as possible to accept the sell-out proposals that were being put on the table in that conference. I'm pleading with you, comrades. I'm pleading with you as soldiers of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Don't accept it. Nothing less than a full elective conference can be allowed. Nothing less than a conference where your inputs and the constitution that we have been proposing can be heard, can be discussed, and can eventually be adopted, can be acceptable. The ANC is divided. The ANC is factional. The ANC has passed that disease on to the veterans of Umkhonto we Sizwe. And now, like the factional vultures that they are, after they have already placed you in the most impossible, most unacceptable, most disregarded, most despicable situation for decades, after they have made you desperate, after they've destroyed your personal lives, the lives of your children, the lives of your families and your wives, they now want to come like vultures, surrounding a carcass, and finally, at this premeditated conference, like the vultures and hyenas that they are, they want to tear the last bit of flesh apart from you. David Mashobo is there to see it. Didi Mabuza is there to see it. Zizi Kotwa is there to see it. To see you finally being destroyed. To see Umkhonto we Sizwe, the glorious army of our people, being destroyed. And when this conference is over, and when they have succeeded, as they try, to get these decisions that will destroy Umkhonto we Sizwe veterans accepted, my dear comrades, only a fool will believe that any of the empty promises that they are making now to get us to do this, to play their dirty little game, to play in their hands, will ever be honored. Umkhonto we Sizwe has been the last line of defense against the destruction of the African National Congress. Umkhonto we Sizwe members stood up in defense of our commander, President Jacob Zuma. With hardly any shelter and hardly any food, they proudly camped outside Nkandla to protect our commander-in-chief. These people don't like us, comrades. Go and read what Mvuso Msimang had to say about us. Go and read what Snooki Zikalala said. Yes, he's also one of those NEC vultures, NEC members circling there. Suddenly he's got an interest in Umkhonto we Sizwe. Read what they've said about you. Read how they despise you, how they despise this uniform. I plead with you, my dear comrades, do not accept any imposed leadership. Insist on an elective conference. Reject any consultative conference. And if it proves impossible to achieve those goals which we've discussed, which we've agreed on, and with which you went there to East London at that ICC, then rather collapse this conference. Rather collapse this conference, but allow yourselves to become the inadvertent instruments of your own self-destruction. I wish I could have stood up, taken a microphone, and spoke and said this, what I've said now. But everything possible had been done to prevent me from doing exactly this. So I have no other option but to make this recording and to send this message and to plead with you, comrades. Don't compromise. Your lives, the lives of your families, and the future of the African National Congress is at stake. The future of the ANC and of Umkhonto we Sizwe veterans will be determined today. It's up to you to take the right decisions. To once again say, there comes a time in the life of a nation. There comes a time in the life of the liberation soldier to either submit or fight. Please, my dear comrades, don't submit. Fight. You were prepared to die for the liberation of our people. That same strength, that same courage must now lead you to stand up and fight. A luta continua.